back live for the second session for this afternoon with our strategic partners, DeepWork Studio. Andre and Charlie are here with us. They're going to give a workshop to Unilogin with two co-founders, Marek, you're in Poland, and Alex in Brazil. So a truly remote team, I have to say. Yes, Andre, tell us what should they expect? What are they going to get from this? Tell us a little bit about DeepWork as well. Thanks.
Cool. Hello, I'm Andre from DeepWork. We are a distributed and remote product design studio, and I worked for the last, I think, 5 years, pretty much exclusively in design sprints or similar collaborative structures, and then started working remotely about 2 years ago, and along with Charlie, founding DeepWork. And today we basically want to share a lot of knowledge on what we kind of developed along the way, but also in a more kind of hands-on workshop to figure out where your current challenges are and what you struggle with from a product perspective, kind of narrow that down, and then give you some insights on what we know from products we worked on or what already exists in the industry that might help you kind of get unstuck and move on as quickly as possible with, basically what you need to be moving on with, which we will figure out in a moment. And we kind of have that time boxed, so there's going to be a couple of I guess exercises, or like it's not really exercises, it's more like parts of this process right now, but eventually we will end up with probably brainstorming a couple of things that are your current challenges. We'll share what we know, and then we might spend the last kind of couple of minutes on brainstorming some solutions also together. Before I actually get into it, I'll post a link to
perhaps Alex and Marek, just half a minute on each of you.
Oh yeah, that'd be great.
Absolutely. So I'm kind of I spent over 10 years building software, mostly in software houses. And most recently, around 3 years ago, I co-founded eForce, which is a software house targeted at specifically on the blockchain stuff. And we've been lucky to work with some of the greatest brands in the space: Bitcoin Foundation, Ethereum Foundation, Maker, Polkadot, to name just a few. And we keep seeing the same problem over and over again, which is like onboarding users to blockchain application is super hard, which led us, myself and Alex, to co-found Unilogin, which is a solution for easy onboarding.
Nice.
Alex?
And I've been on Ethereum space for over 5 years. I was the third employee in FDev, which was the company built by the Ethereum Foundation to build GEF. And like I was there before the network was launched. I was there when we launched the first Ethereum wallet, the first browser. I helped create the DAO. I helped save the DAO. I helped launch ENS. I've been on the space. I had some adventures, and then at some point, I was seeing this problem. I started talking to people about solutions. And then I met someone who wanted to give us a grant. Hey, I want to give a grant to build the solution. And I met Marek, who could build the solution for us. And then we got together, we built a prototype, and then now we have a company.
Wow, that's really cool. Awesome. Yeah, thanks so much. So I just posted a link. We can actually talk about that in more detail. I'll be really curious what you're currently kind of working on. I just posted a link to Miro. This is you might be familiar with it. It's just a collaborative online whiteboard. Get in on this, and there are a couple of workspaces that are more or less. Let me just share my screen, then you can see what I'm talking about. I have here a couple of workspaces just prepared. Just pick anyone you like whichever is empty, that's got no cursor on. These will be just places that we will use to write things down. It's just for you. You're not going to share anything with anyone. If you're not familiar with Miro, the only thing you need to do is, or need to be able to do, is creating a sticky note, which you can do here, and writing something into it, whatever you like, or not whatever you like. I'll tell you in a moment what it would be. And here on the right-hand side, we'll collaborate later on, and I'll explain that in a second. But for now, let's just take about 10 minutes to kind of, or like for you to tell us where the biggest pain points are. While you're doing this, it would be great if we could keep this kind of interactive. So if you're describing it, if you're talking, just yeah, that would be great. For everybody else who's not talking or who's listening, go to your workspace and try and write out everything that you can pick up on as challenges on individual post-it.
So we have 6 workspaces. What's the vision? Is one workspace per person, one per project? Like which is our workspace?
Workspace is just for you personally. Just pick one, put your cursor on, and kind of work from there. It's really just for you to personally write things down. Oh, some of them are not locked. I just locked them so you can't move them around. So just make sure that you can familiarize yourself with writing out post-its, and that's everything that you need to know. And if you're listening and someone else is explaining, but one of you two will be probably talking and telling some details, try and write down everything that sounds like a challenge and rephrase that a little bit into something that's solvable. So you might be familiar with the Procter & Gamble exercise, how might we? It helps you pick up challenges or pick up a sentence that sounds problematic and rephrase that into something that sounds more like a solvable thing. So in this case, you'll see an example that someone wrote down because they were talking about including remote workers, and that is kind of difficult as opposed to being in a face-to-face environment. And the way we write it down is as how might we make sure, and then kind of the problem statement. So it's more like the how might we statement makes it sound already a lot more solvable if we need to rephrase that for later. That's all you need to know. I didn't want to like talk too much, but I'm going to set a timer for like 10 minutes just so we don't over discuss. But for the next 10 minutes would be great if you could just kind of yeah, maybe talk about where your product currently is. If you have like screenshots, it would be great if you can share them. But what I'm interested in most is really where the challenges are that you're currently facing and kind of why you're here. So yeah, I'll start a timer and you can go ahead.
I think we can structure that in a flowing way. Let's talk a little bit first about what are the challenges of the onboarding in general. Then we can talk a little bit about what are the ideas to solve it, and then how far we are down this road. So blockchain is weird for a new person. Like there is this familiar part. Okay, I have an account and I can send money to another person, and which is also, I guess, to some level familiar. There is a fee involved. Like if I want to send you a little bit of money, I need to pay a small fee. And so that kind of model is very intuitive. But then when you go into details, it becomes, the account is very weird. The account doesn't live in the cloud or doesn't live in the bank. It lives on your computer, which means it's a file, it's a string of characters. You can tattoo it on your hand, or you can remember that. It's kind of a new thing for the user. And there is a tremendous challenge with how do I store that? And the way the most of people solve it, the most of companies solve it today, is there is a custodian. So there is a bank like Coinbase or other currency exchange, or there might be a smart account that allows you to host your stuff. And the problem with that is that it kind of contradicts the purpose of the blockchain, because the whole point was to build an alternative, to build a new kind of banking system, not a banking system, like an alternative to a banking system. So it's like you want to build Uber, but first you need to work with taxi companies, or you want to, you know, build Amazon, but first you're talking to Tesco, right? So that's one challenge we want to solve. Like, how do we store the key so it's not stored by someone else, but it's stored by you, but you know, it doesn't disappear if you lost your laptop. And the second part, I guess, that is kind of surprisingly difficult is the fees. So the fees are not normal fees. If you ask me how much does it cost for the transaction, I say, well, it depends on the price of Ether. It depends on how congested the network is. Is it a busy day or not busy day? You know, it might be different. So it's also weird for people. And more we see on the blockchain new kind of assets. So we have a dollar on the blockchain, DAI or USDC or a number of different options. You see a lot of different tokens, and you want to move them around, but you still need Ether. So it's super weird for the users, because it's like going to your USD account and want to do a transfer to another person, and suddenly it's like there's not enough euro on your account, and you're like, why the hell euro? What does the euro have to do with that, right? So I think those are in general two master problems that we have, that in wider perspective the whole space have. And the way we want to solve this, so coming back to going to the next part, is the ideas. So the first core idea is about key storage. The way we want to store keys, and that's very unique to us, and there is nobody really even close to what we're doing, which unfortunately makes it much harder than what other people are doing, is that you need you have a personal multisig wallet. So your money is stored there on the blockchain, and we allow you to pin, like connect to that money from all the different devices, from mobile, from laptop. You can do a backup, you can connect to the hardware wallet, all the different options. And therefore we want to build a lot of security in your money. In a sense, it's only stored on your devices, but if you lost one, then you still have access to it. If someone steal your one of your devices, you still can recover your funds, and he won't be able to steal it all, especially if it's a big amount of money. So that's one part of the puzzle. And the second part of the puzzle with the transaction fees is, and this is a tricky one, and I'm gonna share like our latest development, something we didn't share publicly yet. So we allow you to pay fee in any token you want. So if you're operating in dollars, you can pay in dollars. I mean, the blockchain dollars, of course, but we realize you can go in further down the road, because we talked to many DApp developers, to the application developers, and they told us, you know, if they are doing operations on our application, we probably earning money on that. So we find paying fees for them, as long as there are legitimate fees. This is like a good traffic. This is legitimate users that don't try to screw us in a way. So therefore we build two modes. We build a mode where you can pay your fees in any token you want, and the mode that DApp developer can pay a fee. So if the app developer really want to push the usability to the next level, he will pay the fees, and it will make all kinds of screen disappears and all kinds of UI disappear, making it very close to normal web experience. But there is also a fraud detection system hooked up that we plan to hook up in upcoming weeks. And there might be some rules involved as well. So we look at the user, how he behaves. Is he a good user? And if we think he's a bad user, and we do this risk assessment for the app developers, if we think he's a bad user, he needs to pay for himself. But if we think he's a good user, we'll pay the fees for him. So those are two fundamental, let's say, challenges, and two fundamental ideas to solve it. Where we are down the road, we're pretty far down the road. We build quite big technological stack to kind of, you know, to tackle the problem. We have pretty advanced pilots. We are on the mainnet. We have audited smart contracts. We are connected to two real life applications. We have over 100 other startups interested. So we keep getting more advanced with the pilots and keep rolling out and keep learning and keep improving. None of the feature we consider complete. We still need to put some work before we can say, okay, it's good enough. Now you can put $1 million in that and your money is safe. That's further down the road. For now, we strongly recommend to use small amounts of money to be stored with our account.
What's like a direct application scenario of Unilogin?
So I'll tell you, this is a little bit further down the road, but I tell you what the end goal is. So imagine you're a DeFi application developer. So we build a really cool DeFi application. And just a couple months ago, the current market is a little bit on reverse, but just a couple months ago, you could have DeFi instruments, you could have financial instruments much more attractive than anything you can buy on the market, anything you can buy on the outside of the blockchain. And I think it's going to come in, like we're going to have more and more of those very interesting, attractive financial opportunities that are more attractive than others because they are built in the open ecosystem. So imagine you have that, you already have the users, you already have the growth, and you want to speed up the growth, and you want to run an ad campaign, or you want to do, you know, whatever kind of campaign, marketing campaign. So with us, you can onboard your users with standard campaign like you would do for any other SaaS, software as a service, or any other online application. You can do a campaign and you can start onboarding these users to your application, which is almost impossible today in a sense that it's just too complicated. Like your funnels get sliced and you ain't gonna be able to effectively onboard a lot of users.
Okay.
So basically, to clarify, it's in the campaign itself, you can actually get the user. The user doesn't have to then go to a different website, sign up, create a password and all this. So really through the campaign, boom.
Could be, definitely. Yeah. Not necessarily how it's gonna look in the early days, but yeah, once you have an account, you can go into all the different places.
Interesting. Okay. And do
you get it, Andre?
Yeah, more or less. So what I'm wondering is, what is what are your you're basically targeting projects that like DeFi projects or blockchain products to implement your system.
That's correct.
Okay. And
basically,
the challenges that you have to, sorry.
I think it's basically any web DApp, any DApp on the web.
Yeah. Okay. And so just to kind of paraphrase that, so I understand it correctly, your challenge is you're interested in how to get people into understanding the value of the blockchain products, or understanding the value in using Unilogin too. So,
I would try to, so there are two ways you can describe it in one sentence. One is we try to just lower the entry barrier, just make it so usable, so it's not very different from the, let's say, clouds today. I guess you could think about it like login with Google, but it's more like login with Stripe for blockchain.
Yeah.
So it's like you can log in with Stripe, and once you log in with Stripe, you can use all your money in all the different ways, and you can be in all the different places, and boom, off it go. You don't need to put your credit card number. You don't need to know anything about CFFO and all that stuff. Where, of course, in this example, the credit card is the blockchain weirdness.
Yeah, right. Okay, and do you already have a product or a prototype or something that's kind of?
Yes, absolutely. We are now implemented in kickback.events. It's pretty popular. It's very niche, but it's very popular among the blockchain users. So it's an application that allows you to stake for the event. So if there is an event, a lot of those events in the blockchain space are completely for free. So, you know, people are doing those events, and there are a lot of people are kind of confirming that they're gonna come, but they're not coming. So with Kickback, you can stake and say, okay, I'm gonna put $50, and you're gonna get the money back if you go to the event. But if you don't go to the event, you don't get the money back. The money goes to all the people that came. So you can go to the event for free, just take $50 and then get $60 back, and then you're $10
Right.
positive on the deal. So that's pretty popular. Like if you go to any major conference, there are like smaller events around it, and there is at least 1, 2, or 3 that's organized using Kickback. They also did ETH New York last year, which was like 350 people or something, I believe.
Yeah.
Like a couple hundred, definitely. We also implemented a Gnosis Safe, which is ironically the multi-sig wallet. So you can use personal multi-sig wallet to log in into more complex.
Okay. That's cool. Huh, interesting. And maybe one last question. What's your current business model, or how do you monetize your product?
So that is pretty. That is one of the hardest parts. Like there's not enough hard parts in that.
Right.
What we believe is that people will want to have a light. What we believe, because we spoke to all the different app developers, they will want to have a white label experience. So they will want to have features like ability to pay for the users for the fees, to reduce the amount of steps and UI in the process. And they want to do their own branding. A lot of teams have their own tokens, and they want the users to be able to pay fees in their tokens rather than in Ether or dollar on blockchain, let's call it. So there is a lot of those little things that make that people would like to see, that the app developers would like to see. So that brings us to simple software as a service model, when you pay a monthly fee to access all those premium white label features. Premium, and big part of premium is white labeling.
Yeah, right. Okay. And have you already experimented with, or like, have you done, like, have you experimented with different pricing models, or?
Well, it's definitely too early for us. We have 2 integrations for now. I think we would be ready like when we have at least 10 to start working with the pricing. But we already have 1 customer committed to the payment, to the fee model. And I think there is another 2 interested. So it's like we have the initial, it seems we're close to validation, to initial validation that the model seems to be attractive. There are also other players in the space that are not non-custodial, so players that will store money for you. And it seems that they also being successful in employing a similar business model.
Okay, interesting. I see. Okay, cool. I think that's enough for now. Charlie, do you have anything that you want to
ask? I guess what are the about any implications of getting the business model wrong? Is there anything like you start developing down a certain route and it turns out it doesn't work in the future date? Can you thought along those lines at all?
Well, business model is hard, and a lot of people were thinking about it. The VC space was observing this kind of subspace, this usability subspace of Ethereum and blockchain in general very closely, and a lot of people were trying to tackle the business model part, and it seems to be the only reasonable direction. And it is, to be perfectly honest, it is the biggest risk now that it might be hard to monetize. But on initial, the signaling on the market is that it's a good direction. So we say very positive about it. And then only when we try, we know for sure.
Okay. And so then basically, if you can't figure out a way to monetize, then there's no way to make this product sustainable, or?
Well, we thought about different monetization strategies. For example, to give you an idea, our initial concept was to have a fee on top of the fee. So on top of the blockchain fee, we put a small fee on top of that. But it seems the market just doesn't seem big enough. Like if we would conquer like 100% transaction on Ethereum, it still would be tens of millions of dollars worth of market rather than anything bigger. So that's a small pie to slice into pieces.
Right.
There is so it's not completely closed in direction, in a sense that there are scalability solutions being built, and we might be able to put fees there, but the complexity grows, and so something we can return to exploring if we fail with this business model and we see scalability is taking off, then it might be interesting to explore.
Okay, I see.
The big plus about software as a service is like it's very well known model. People's done it over and over again, and VCs understand it. And, app developers understand it. So it would be interesting to explore other sub directions of that rather than something substantially different.
Yeah. Okay, makes sense. Cool. Let's just move on real quick with this. The way I kind of planned this or like structured it is we wrote down a couple of these post-its now, and whoever wrote them, just move them over to the collaborative workspace on the right, or you can also click share my screen. Basically here, if you wrote anything on one of those, just move them over so they're all clustered in here. And that's great. So now for everybody else, let's just do a quick 3-minute round on just reading through all of those, because these are the kind of things that resonated with us that we could pick up on. And it's just everything that you just talked about. So the general UX issues along, as well as business challenges, and kind of try to go into as much detail as possible in that time. But what we want to do is kind of vote on what you perceive as like really important. And this is just a kind of a way for us to collaborate with teams where we're trying to find, we're trying to prioritize information and prioritize challenges that seem, worth working on, so that based on all of this, it's relatively clear then at some point what we should focus on, especially as a team of different experts with different backgrounds and different experience. So on the top right, you'll have these little red circles. Just go and on your Miro board, let me share that here. So these little red circles, just go there and press Command and C or Control and C if you're on a Windows. And for the next 3 minutes, just read through everything that's there and place a couple of dots on the post-its that you find important or worth solving. Just
Andre, would it make sense if there are like stickers that relates to each other or are the same thing? Should we put it next to each other maybe?
Oh yeah, sure. You can move them and overlap them. If they're very similar, just overlap them. I normally do that also in categories. So it's, there's bigger clusters, but just because we don't have that much time, let's just kind of, and it's also not that many. Let's just quickly kind of go through that. And if you see something that's very, very similar, feel free to cluster and overlap. For you guys from Unilogin, just take 4 votes each, and everybody else will just have 2 each. I'm going to start a timer around 3 minutes, and let's just see where we end. So here's the timer. I'm going to play a little bit of peaceful music.
So 4 dots for the Unilogin guy. No,
for
it's
you,
four for you and Alex.
Yeah.
4 dots each for you and Alex.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Andrew, are you able to share the screen and play music?
I can, but I just realized that I'm not sure if I can stream the music for the live stream, and
Yeah.
you might get like you might not be able to you know, replay the videos if you have the music shared.
Yes, we downloaded actually copyright-free music. You should try it for the next.
Oh, cool. Yes, send me a link. I'm
Oh,
looking for...
it's all over YouTube. You can find it on YouTube, on Spotify. It's not a problem.
Oh, awesome. Okay, that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll do that next time.
But maybe nice for the viewers to see really.
Oh yeah, right.
what
Sorry.
we're doing.
Yes. I was just trying to read. Yeah, you're right. There we go. So yeah, like, I think technically it should be possible to do both at the same time, but I'm not sure if there's something to it. Okay.
That's very late.
Is anybody still voting, or is there still anything, anyone not finished?
No, I ran out of dots already.
Okay, great. Oops. I messed up my Zoom. There. Cool. Yeah, thanks so much. Let's just move them over into the next frame just so we have them in a kind of better overview with highest votes on top and then going lower. That just makes it easier to just see what's really important, or like what seems to be really important, and then go into the details of those. Cool. Oh, yeah, nice. All right, great. So awesome. I'm just going to read quickly through what's there, so we can, so it's all clear. So there's two posts that are very, or like 2 topics with high votes. One of them is how to monetize the product, is kind of what we picked up on, and then how to get the user to back up keys without interrupting the flow, and how to push the user to add more keys and devices. The user in this case is the end user, right? So it's not the team and products, right? Okay, cool. And then there's a couple of other ones. How much we found out premium features, customers value, and then focus on a market that is big enough to become a unicorn. And yeah, educate developers, explore other monetization strategies, actually very similar to the one above. Find the balance between custodial and recoverable, communicate the user is able to log in reusable other apps. Oh, it's really, okay, yeah. How motivate users to understand fees and structure a multi-signature interface by Unilogin. Generally, so it seems like the kind of biggest challenges here are around removing friction and monetizing the product. I think it's interesting that this one also got a lot of upvotes and finding out which premium features customers value. Just from my personal experience, I think, and I'm not sure if I kind of understand that correctly, I think that obviously you're still working out the product itself and working out some details on how it should be, how it should remove the friction with the user experience as much as possible, but it's also pretty important to figure out like how do you actually monetize the product itself, and it's almost like more important in the first case, because in the end a lot of how people will use the product, whether it's for free or whether it's bound to certain fees will be tied directly to how it's monetized, because it communicates to people where the value lies, but also lets them understand what the product is that they're using. Obviously, we want to make sure that all products are as invisible as possible, but I feel like there's a kind of a difference between what you see as users and as
yeah, there's also an interesting piece there, because like our main goal is that we will monetize developers, but we are also focusing on users. So it's sort of like the two main like things that got red dots. One of them is how can we add value to the user without adding the minimal amount of interruptions. But sort of it's like how can we be invisible to users, but how can we be very visible to developers, right? We want to monetize the product, means we want to be like very visible to developers. We want not to interrupt the user, means we want to be almost invisible to the user. So it's there's an interesting paradox there.
Yeah. Do you currently have like marketing efforts on the front of making it visible for developers?
No, we have like our marketing efforts is like we send them, we have like a mailing list of people who have signed up to be interested. We used to talk in conferences when like back in the days when there were conferences to talk to.
Yeah.
Like that.
Okay. I'm just trying to think of a product that was similar to this, because I'm pretty sure I've worked on something that went along those lines. Generally, sorry.
We looked for a similar product and we couldn't find it. Like, I guess the similar product could be like login with Stripe is the best we came up with. Like, it's kind of a little bit of Stripe and a little bit login with Facebook.
Yeah. No, I'm just also thinking of products that I've personally been involved in, because obviously there has to be some. So yeah, it's a very interesting kind of challenge. But from what I understand currently is that what would help in the biggest way to solve for both of these topics would be to see if you like how to communicate, how do you provide value and drive customer engagement with the products that already exist, but to the developers, because they're the ones who need to pay you, but you need to figure out what's the value that you bring with your service. Because I think the actually fixing the flow is something that's relatively, or like the fixing the user experience is relatively straightforward if you know the product. So I'm just wondering if it's clear enough to developers where the value lies in utilizing Unilogin.
Well, I would argue it is, because they see the problem that they all try to grow. They, all of them have, most of them have investments and investors, and they want to grow.
Right.
Point of making the app if you don't want to grow, and they see those pains. I guess the biggest challenge for us specifically at this point of time is that selling maybe the non-custodial part of it is becoming a challenge, because the problem, it was for so long so hard that some people, when they say when they saw custodial solutions, they say, okay, this is good enough, let's just move on, let's just start moving forward, because it's something, it's a progress, so that might be a sub problem that we have within the bigger problem of, do they see the value?
I'm a little bit curious on the value. So whenever we go to a DeFi product, I'm thinking of Kickback, for example, if I go there and I click Connect Wallet, and I'm a first-time user, I get the choice of maybe 6 or 7, 8 different wallets. How do you guys fit in with that? Can you have multiple wallets, or do you really want to be kind of dominating the market here?
So that's right. That's right there, the problem. And so it seems the consensus is among the DApp developers that there needs to be, so there's gonna be this period when the market is fragmented, and then there's gonna be 1 or 2 winners when people say, okay, I'm gonna just use that because there's too much and we can't support everything. Not in a sense because it's a lot of work, but in a sense that users have no idea what to click.
And do you think that, you know, if you have a wallet which has better features for users or better features for the customer, the DApp developer, they're more likely to then kind of like start to get down into that route sooner than later?
Yes. So it seems that currently on the market there is already a leader in the custodial space. So there is a wallet that is good enough and it's white label, and people say, yeah, fuck that. Sorry. So let's not think about all the blockchain principles. Let's just start onboarding those users. And there is some traction there, and it's good because, you know, we're making a progress as a space. But the problem with those custodial wallets is not only that the keys are stored, you know, basically on the server, and the major difference between all the different accounts is like it's stored a little bit, you know, on Amazon server or maybe on my server, or maybe some other server. So there's not major differences. But the problem is that it doesn't solve the fee problem. It doesn't solve other problems, right? So if we want to onboard those users, we ain't gonna onboard them to Ether. We don't, like, this is just one step on the way onboard, but then they need a stable currency. They need something that they can relate to, which is, let's say, dollar on the blockchain, let's say DAI or USDC or Trust USD. And with those classical approach, they still need to have Ether. They need to be aware of Ether. They need to be aware of blockchain. They need to be aware of the blockchain piece. So there's this whole part of the blockchain mental model that they need to understand, at least to some extent. They need to understand to move forward. And it's only the smart accounts that has the promise of solving those problems. So you're gonna be able to pay fees in DAI or USDC or any other dollar or euro, whatever on the blockchain, and then you can forget it's the blockchain because there is no this weird other thing called Ether.
That sounds like, yeah.
So there is a short game and a long game. So in the short game, it seems that custodial is gonna gain some traction, but in the long run, you know, they're just gonna stuck on the next wall, and then we're working on the next generation. We try to jump over both walls at a time.
Okay, that sounds like you're considering to target people who are completely novice to blockchain.
Obviously, because I mean the blockchain is still small. If you look at the market cap, like the whole market cap of all the cryptocurrencies today is basically, you know, like a couple of big positions on Wall Street. It's not like something that a good trader is trading over a day, right? So there's enormous room to grow, and there is, I believe, there is very strong need for having alternative to finance system. There is a lot of things wrong with the finance system, with the current finance system. And we're not trying to burn it or anything, but there should be an alternative. Same way there is Uber is alternative to taxi, Airbnb is alternative to hotels, and we should have a new banking, right? And we should bring that banking to everyone who wants to. That's the goal here.
Okay. Yeah, cool. I think let's just try, and so like what I sometimes do, I don't know if you've already done that before in other workshops, is we could just use some time and brainstorm some solutions ourselves on paper, because I have some ideas, but I want to kind of write them out. And I think that could be a good place to start. So if we go back on the Miro board and let's just kind of use the post-its that we have here for the individual questions, or like the highest voted ones, and take like, I don't know, let's say we can do a little bit longer than the last session, right? We could take like 7 minutes maybe for writing out some solutions that you see here, and then we could quickly kind of go through them and see if there's anything that could help you move forward. So yeah, just take one of those blue post-its underneath and then try and write out as many things as you can that could relate to the challenges that we just discussed, and kind of roll it out as well. And because we're many people who work together, we'll probably come up with a couple of interesting things. I'm just going to, maybe I'll look for some music on YouTube and see if I can find some that I can stream. Oh yeah, I'm gonna put on a timer for 5 minutes for now. Write as many as you can, and I'll see the. But, Ram, what's a good thing to look for on Google, on YouTube for music?
Copyright free.
Ah, very good. Thank you. There we go. See what that brings.
I think they also have in Spotify if you're connected with music with the iPhone.
Ah, okay.
Nice.
I'll just let that run for a while.
Problem is that the people on YouTube or on the live stream will not see it, will not see the board. They just hear the music.
Ah, okay. Maybe I can share that as well at the same time. Probably not. I'll find something. That stops the music, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'll just share my screen then, just so there's people can watch this.
Yeah.
Feel free to turn on your own Spotify music in that case.
Charlie, unmute yourself. At least we hear some birds.
There you go.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, that's it.
There's also a Hoover now, so I might actually have to mute again.
Nice.
So perhaps since everyone's quiet, I will just talk a bit while you guys are working.
Cool, thank you. Thank you.
But basically, what we try in Accelerator Frankfurt to look in any startup is the potential to become a unicorn, or the potential to become the next few $100 million business. And this is what investors, especially VCs, are looking for. They're looking to find that 100x company. Yes, 10x, also very good, but basically multiply. If you're making 100 investments, maybe 80% of them fail, 10% or 15% of them break even or bring maybe 2 or 3 times the money invested, and maybe 1 or 2 will bring the big amount, will be the next Facebook or such. So that's why it's key when building a startup, is that you don't think first of all, you certainly don't go in a consulting based model. That, yes, can bring cash flow, but it takes resources. You need to find a scalable business that does not require more human capital to really scale it globally. And therefore, you have to find a big enough market for such a business to be able to attract the investors who can then see the vision of how you're going to make that 100x multiple or become the next $1 billion company. And I think this is when we're talking about monetization. It's not these short-term consulting projects, but really scalable businesses. Go ahead.
Cool. Yeah. Thanks, Ram. Thanks for the quick intervention. So yeah, I think there's a couple of really cool things that popped up. I'm just going to go through. I don't think we'll have to vote on those just for time's sake, but I think I'm just going to read through a few that kind of that have been brainstormed here. So on the first one, which is kind of directed towards the user flow, there's a force user to back up once they have money on the account, integrate with wallets. I think that's kind of what you're already working on. Allow custodial guardians, ask app developers to integrate in both mobile and web version of the app. I mean, that makes sense in terms of product roadmap. Get email and send a recovery token to sign up. So these things are actually another one. Narrow down the target segment to users who are familiar with the current tools and play the long game. So yeah, I think it's actually quite interesting because all of these are very like functional and good solutions towards a product. I think this one is more goes more towards because you were mentioning that you kind of have a very broad range of users. Sometimes it happens that your product is kind of almost too far into the future, and so for some product it's a good approach to start where people are already familiar with the technology, so that you don't have to teach them anything new, and you already have kind of users who would understand the friction points. But I'm going to read out the rest that's there. Grants, I think Unilogin is more public than private. So that's like how to monetize it through grants. Yeah. Transaction-based, for example, ad campaigns. I think these things are already kind of what you've explored, but from what it sounds like to me, it's already, these are opportunities, but they're not going to help you in a sustainable, competitive long-term game. And how much we focus on a big market, go beyond blockchain apps, Web2. That's already quite interesting. Exclusive onboarding solutions for new users. That is actually also quite an interesting one in terms of marketing and making yourself stand out. Map out competitive landscape and find key differentiators, which I think is also an interesting idea. If you, as Charlie mentioned before, there are already a lot of different wallets, but where can you position yourself as something as kind of unique, not necessarily faster or better than everybody else, but more like, yeah, that will also help you define the language that you can use in order to onboard users. Build and ship a product that works with users and developers right now. That kind of goes into the same direction, I think. Especially, yeah, if it's a product that that people would pay for right now, it will be much easier in the future to build it out into something that works in a different future where you kind of envision that product to already work, because you've kind of gathered the market already and you've kind of swung along with that. And then the last one would be how we find out the premium features that customers value. Build a completely custom wallet solution, white label to spec for a key team, ask for how much they pay for it. That's interesting. That also kind of ties along with a particular product, but that is an own project in itself. So that's quite a big thing. Build custom solutions for individual developers. Yeah, that makes sense. I think that's definitely also something to explore in terms of what people will pay for. Prototype and test premium features and prioritize. Yeah, that's a good approach in general, and that's kind of our key work, I guess, is always to prototype and test everything and build stuff that's not real, but costs as little effort as possible, but that looks like the real thing, so that we can show it to users, and whether it's end users or if it's a B2B product.
And you could say like that's very, very related to the previously, like the prototyping and test new premium features is also very similar to building custom solutions for developers, right? Because you're just testing like whatever is the developer is needing, you just build until you figure out something that everyone needs. Yes,
exactly. Yeah, and you can actually kind of save a lot of time by just prototyping it without developing anything. But even tools that don't have a graphical user interface, what you can think of in this case as a prototype could even be a marketing stunt or a marketing product. So even a landing page that describes your offering, so that, or an email even, that you could show to potential customers, especially to teams or product teams, and then gather feedback on how that resonates with them or what exactly resonates with them, because they will then ask you questions that you might not even have thought about that would drive the development of the actual product for the customers. 24/7 developer support, yeah, that's great. that's sometimes that's possible, but that sacrifices sleep. And give premium for free and then take it away after a certain amount of time, after the value is established.
People are gonna love that.
Yeah, now you're paying. But the way that you can actually do it is by, it's a very similar as well direction with prototyping something, because you're not asking people for money when you want to see what they value and how they use it. But if you build something that's free and use that as an experiment, you can do some user research, run interviews, and ask people where they see the highest value, so that based on their responses, you can almost prioritize which things from this product that you kind of completely offered for free do they value the most, which ones do they need, and maybe you will find a way how to kind of combine different pricing strategies, so you can kind of charge for a specific feature set, whereas you leave something else for free that drives engagement, but gets people to work on to think about upgrading and then paying. There's different models, and obviously with this product, it's a very kind of unique challenge, but that could be definitely a direction. So yeah, I think this was actually pretty interesting. I don't know if there's like value that you see in any of those, if that kind of moves you forward. I think there's a lot of really good stuff in here. Maybe,
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was an interesting exercise. Yeah, it helped a little bit organize also the thoughts and priorities, I guess. And
Look,
Alex
so
would.
sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
No, so this is what Deep Work did now. What we did with them is really just an hour scratching the surface, but they can certainly go deeper. And I spoke to Andre and Charlie that through the program, if you need more, we can set up offline session and go deeper where you need. Maybe taking and voting here on these last ones and taking it a step further. How would you go about it, Andre?
Yeah, I was just about to say, I think what I would recommend if you kind of do this specific exercise, maybe even bring some people on board who you find could be good advisors for you. I mean, we're already kind of creating that session here, and kind of take some more time, maybe more than 10 minutes, on gathering all the questions, gathering some more solutions, and then vote and prioritize solutions that resonate with you the most and what you think would be interesting next steps. And kind of, if you see that there's some parts are actually quite simple and easy to do, there's an exercise I can show you later as well, more in person. We call it the Lightning Decision Jam, which basically goes through a similar structure where you brainstorm all the challenges that you have, you prioritize them, you brainstorm on the solutions, you prioritize the solutions, you use something like an effort impact scale, which is a very, very basic way to just get an idea of which of those that you have upvoted, which have high kind of emotional relevance, might be easy enough to get started with in terms of effort, but also would have the highest impact as an experiment. So if you would, for instance, if you would try out building custom solutions for individual developers, that could potentially be a very, very simple thing if you build a prototype and then show it. That can be done in maybe a week. And the impact of it might actually be relatively high if you learn from it. And basically, you can kind of lay out all these on such a scale. If that's not detailed enough, if you don't exactly know the action steps, you can also go and kind of dive a little bit deeper into the individual solutions that end up being impactful, but also kind of easy to do right now. And then take them apart in what you actually need to get started with in order to do it. So this is kind of what I would probably recommend at this stage, because there's so many things that are possible and there's so many things that you could do. I would probably just spend half an hour brainstorming as many as you can, place them on such a matrix, and then use one or two of the ones in this corner and break them up into actionable steps. I'll share with you this template later. This if you're trying to read this, who will take the responsibility for it. This is more like if you have
what are the steps exactly? I'm not sure I understand what the step
one, 2,
and 3 is.
So imagine we would take like those and let's say build a custom solution for an individual developer. That would be something that ends up somewhere here. You would just kind of take that from there, move it over, and the steps is another like kind of exercise where you would think about or collaborate on what is necessary in order to make this happen. So if you build a custom solution, what's the very first like step that you need to do towards this? And then, what are the things that need to be done? And then what that helps with is just really getting started without having to think about what you need to do, because, some challenges might be also difficult to define. So that's kind of that. I think that would be kind of the best way to move on with. Let us know if you have time, I can guide you through like this more specifically offline or like at a separate session. But I think that could be quite helpful to just get a clearer overview of what's going on and what you can do kind of right now in such a tricky scenario. So I hope that makes sense as an answer. Sorry.
Yeah, it sounds very good.
I think, guys, next week and the week after, there's a few open slots. So if you would if you want to do this and bring maybe other people from your company, we could do it as well on a session. And if we don't fit it in the open slots, you just need to coordinate perhaps outside the live streams. But I would definitely like to show this live stream of how it goes through, and then hopefully share it with the rest of Ethereum developers, as you will have a workshop coming up with them. So that would be good to share that. Andre, please, of course, send in PDFs or however you can what we've done today to the team. Also, the other part, Leon will distribute it, and we can take it from there.
Cool. Yeah, thanks. I'll just post quickly the 2 links to the boards here in the chat.
I think you have all our emails.
Okay.
The calendar invite.
That's true. Yes, then I'll forward you on the emails.
Yes.
That's good.
Keep Maria and myself CC'd. We'd like to be on top of that.
Awesome.
Great.
Cool. Yeah, thanks so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for this great workshop.
Thank you.
Great. Happy you liked it. Very good. Guys, have a great weekend. Time to fill up the glass of wine. And
Of water.
it was a tough week, but we made it. We made some progress.
It's still 11 a.m. here, but I might just fill the glass of wine still.
Awesome.
Nice.
Great.
Bye-bye.
Tim,
Bye-bye.
please start commercials. Thank you. Are we off?
They're really giving everything they have into the business that they've created and into the community that they are nurturing. And their help and their patience and their enthusiasm was something which is rare and is one of the reasons I think that in the long term they're going to succeed very well here.
I want to thank particularly Maria and Ram, who were great initiatives of this program, and I guess I speak in the name of all participating startups here. Thank you.
I want to say hi to the other countries tuned in. We've marketed this event also in Finland very strongly and in Israel.
I'm going to tell you exactly why, the reasons why you're here and what we're going to get out of the day as well. Please put your hands together for the founder of Accelerator Frankfurt, Mr. Ram Shoham.
Business life, startup life, entrepreneur, it's all about people. Because it is a big day for Accelerator Frankfurt.
I think that it's a wonderful area to actually develop and adopt initial customers.
This feeling that failing is very, very bad. And if you're an entrepreneur, if you want to do something, you have to have that ability.
I think the unique thing that actually Frankfurt brings is this connection with Israel. We all know Israel is a startup hub, you know, like the second after Silicon Valley. And what we want to do here in Frankfurt is really create a vibrant ecosystem. And for that, I think it helps that we have this Israeli startups coming to Frankfurt, mixing with their own, with crazy ideas and crazy ways of doing things, with a more stable, down-to-earth, German way, systematic way of doing things.
Thanks, VCs, business angels. I think you have the biggest responsibility of nurturing our startup ecosystem. You are the oxygen for the startups.
Maria and Ram, they have a huge background and experience in bringing up startups. So they come from communities in Israel and Finland, where startup is a very strong community and maybe much more active and dynamic than in Germany. And they have brought that spirit to Germany.
No, it's definitely been an outstanding experience, so I would definitely rate it as a 10, yeah, for sure.
It would be a 10. Honestly, first program we participated in, but it certainly over-delivered our expectations.
Yeah, this would be absolutely like 100, but if it's a 10,